oh, have I got a story for you. A story of terror. It didn't take place in some forgotten century, but right in the 1980s. A story of a regular family driven to the brink by something dark, something they couldn't see, but they could hear, smell, and feel. This, my friends, is the terrifying tale of the Smurl family, tormented by a presence that haunted them for over a decade. It all started in 1974, when the Smurl family moved into what they thought was their perfect home in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Jack, Janet, their 4 daughters, and Jack's parents all lived together in a duplex, a cozy home for a growing family. But their dream house quickly turned into a nightmare. At first, it was just minor annoyances. Foul smells like rotting flesh would waft through the house without any explanation. And then there were the noises, strange, untraceable sounds at night, like someone or something was moving through the house. Everyone heard it, but no one could find the source. And let's be honest, when you hear bumps in the night, your first instinct is to just brush it off. Right? But what if those sounds kept coming back, stronger and stronger and stronger? The Smurls had no idea what was coming, and no idea how to fight it. By the late 1970s, the activity became impossible to ignore. Doors slammed of their own volition, lights flickered uncontrollably, and shadows seemed to move in the corners of their vision. Janet began to hear whispers at night, but whenever she turned to look, no one was there. The once welcoming home had become something sinister. One night, Jack was jolted awake by the sensation of something gripping his arm tightly. He looked around, but the room was empty. No one was there. The next night, Janet was violently ripped from her bed, thrown to the floor by an unseen force. Imagine, just for a second, you're laid in bed at night, fast asleep in the land of Narnia, and all of a sudden you are thrown out of your bed and smashing on the floor without any explanation. At this point, it was clear something wasn't right in that house, and whatever it was getting more aggressive. As time went on, the Smurls felt they were under siege. They would hear loud, unearthly bangs in the walls, scratching sounds beneath the floors, and disembodied voices echoing through the halls. And then came the shadows. Dark, human-like figures that stood silently at the foot of their beds at night, watching, waiting. The smell of rot worsened, filling the house with a stench so foul that it was unbearable. The Smurls tried to investigate, but nothing made sense. The house wasn't old enough for that kind of decay, and the walls and the floors showed no sign of damage. The presence in the house wasn't just haunting them, it was attacking them. Janet would hear things like growling in the dark and often reported of instances where she was thrown against the walls. Jack was physically assaulted, and even their children began reporting terrifying encounters. Just imagine that for a second. You're experiencing something you can't explain, but then your children start coming to you with terrifying stories, terrifying accounts that are frightening them, and you can't make them feel better. You can't end their suffering. Desperate for answers, the Smurls sought help from the church. But every blessing seemed to make the situation worse. In 1986, after more than a decade of torment, they turned to Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators who had dealt with cases like Amityville. The Warrens claimed that the Smurls' house wasn't just haunted by a ghost, it was infested with a demonic presence, something ancient and malevolent. Lorraine Warren described seeing dark, shadowy masses in the home and hearing violent, guttural voices. The Warrens attempted multiple exorcisms, but each time the demon only seemed to grow stronger. It was playing with the family like a predator toying with its prey. The Smurls were beyond desperate, living in constant fear of the next attack. The most horrifying encounters came during this period. Jack reported being sexually assaulted by the demon, something he described as one of the most violating experiences of his life. Janet was thrown around the house like a ragdoll, slammed into walls by invisible hands. The entity was no longer hiding in the shadows, it was making itself known, and it wanted to break them. Visitors to the house often reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, and some claimed they were physically pushed or touched by something they couldn't see. The Smurl family was living in a nightmare, and there seemed to be no way out. The haunting attracted media attention, and soon the Smurl family became a topic of nationwide discussion. Some people believed them, but many didn't. Skeptics accused the Smurls of fabricating the entire story for attention or financial gain. They called it a hoax, saying there was no way such a thing could ever happen in modern America. But the Smurls stood by their claims, insisting that they were living with something beyond explanation. Even Ed and Lorraine Warren came under fire, with skeptics dismissing their findings as nothing more than superstition. But whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Smurl family was clearly suffering. Something was happening in that house, something that pushed them to the brink. Despite multiple exorcisms, blessings, and even moving out temporarily, the Smurls couldn't escape the demonic presence. It followed them for years, tormenting them, attacking them, and seemingly feeding off their misery. It wasn't until 1989, after more than 15 years of terror, that the haunting began to subside. The Smurls eventually moved out, but even in their new home, they claimed the dark presence had followed them. The Smurl haunting remains one of the most controversial, terrifying cases of the 20th century. Was it a demonic infestation, or just a desperate family caught up in hysteria? So what do you think? Was it real, or was it just a hoax? You might be thinking, there's no way this could happen in this century. Like all of a sudden demons and ghosts don't care that... Like all of a sudden demons and ghosts care that it's 2024. But the Smurls swore by their story. So here's the real question. Could you live in a house where something unseen lurks in the dark, where the bumps in the night might not just be the house settling, but something watching, waiting. Would you dare spend a night in a house like that? Because I can tell you now, you won't catch my fat arse there. And on that note, that's all for tonight's tale of terror. If you enjoyed this chilling story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more haunted horrors. Let me know in the comment section if you would dare face the unknown like the Smurls, and follow me on X for updates on the next spine-tingling story in this 10-part series. Until then, sleep tight.
If you can.